we're getting into game season. I know recruiting, we were trying to stretch that as long as we could, kind of ran out of steam there at the end. We'll see. Hopefully we get some surprises here and bring it back, but more likely shifting gears to the season. And we were talking before the show, and you think that this is basically, you didn't use the words make or break, but you insinuated that this is just a critical season to get over the hump. If not now, basically when?
Well, I think year 4 for any recruiting-based head coach especially, but for any head coach, that's always been the mile marker. Year 3, you can start making a decent judgment, and I think Mario Cristobal, while they fell short of expectations, which was in-house, we need to get to Charlotte. Unfortunately, it was a wonky ACC year, and you had a bunch of teams in the ACC mix that didn't end up playing one another, so you didn't get to see that play out on the field. That being said, Miami led by 21 at Syracuse. All they had to do was win that game. They would have been firmly entrenched in the college football playoff, you would imagine, and that would have been a wild success for Miami in year 3. In year 4, you have the centennial season of the Miami Hurricanes. Year 4 of a recruiting-based head coach that has proof of concept, that has a top 10 high school recruiting class, a top 10 transfer portal class, has built on having a Heisman finalist, certified number 1 pick in the NFL draft, got Carson Beck over here, continues to build out that line. The talent has been elevated at the University of Miami. The depth has been elevated at the University of Miami. You got 4 road games this year. 4 road games. Think about all the years we've gone through line by line and identified tricky road games. Got fewer of those to identify this year. You got maybe a night game at SMU. We'll see what they are. Is it time for them to turn into a pumpkin, or are they for real? We like what they've done in the transfer portal. We recognize a lot of the names. Virginia Tech. What kind of shape is that program going to be in? That's always a difficult game for Miami, but the good Miami teams, they go into Blacksburg and win. If not now, you look to next year, it's not going to be the same kind of deal. Now, Miami is blessed in that they have a bunch of marquee games that'll dilute that, and there will be a national talking point about road games, I'm sure, if Miami is ranked top 5D. We know that the haters are going to crawl out of wherever it is. It's going to be a narrative that doesn't surround teams like Notre Dame. How many true road games did Notre Dame play last year? They do that nonsense with the service academies where they play games in Yankee Stadium, calling it a road game. The nerve. You actually don't have a lot of SEC teams that play true road games. They go to neutral sites. They try to avoid it at all costs. What Miami is doing this year is kind of analogous to what power programs do. Let's talk about the home slate. You got Notre Dame, D. And Notre Dame, week 1 is exactly when you want this program because all of the unknowns. I don't know how much you've looked at some of the recent news around their offensive line. They have an unproven quarterback, although a quarterback that's featured some, but he's never gone into Hard Rock kicking off a stadium week 1 under the bright lights. This is when you want to catch that team.
No doubt. I mean, look, they've had trouble with MAC teams early, right? Talk about Marshall. Talk about, who was it last year? The MAC team, Northern
Illinois.
So they have been a team that catches their stride later under Marcus Freeman. So that's something to keep an eye on. Obviously, they're going to be jacked for this game. I don't think this is going to be a game where you catch them sleeping by any means, but maybe it takes some time to coalesce. Kind of interesting Notre Dame team in that the receivers are a strength for this team, which has not been the case historically. Offensive line, always good. They've lost some of the depth. We talked about that. Guys, they had an abundance of starters last year, so they were able to get through some injuries. A lot of those guys went to Nebraska, Tennessee, Indiana, different places to start. So you've lost that quality depth. Charles Jagasaw, projected to be maybe their most talented offensive lineman, wherever you line him up, hurts his arm. We don't know if he's going to be out. He's going to be missing time in the camp. What's his deal? So their offensive line is going to be great, but not as deep maybe as it was last year. Will be an interesting game.
And let's talk about another assumed strength of theirs. If Miami played in the college football playoff against Notre Dame, we'd like to think that they would have done better than Indiana from an offensive standpoint, right? They would have put on a better show, no doubt. But Bryce Love would have run for 300 yards against Miami. With those outside runs, those power stretch runs that he does, Miami showed an inability throughout the season to stop that. You have a brand new defensive coordinator. You have some new personnel. You have developed personnel. But let's not pretend like the Minnesota Golden Gophers were incredible at stopping the run. Granted, different program. different personnel. Maybe Coach Heatherman has plenty of success against the run in previous stops, but Miami needs to prove that they can stop plays to the outside. Not just the power stretches, not just the stretch runs. Anytime there was motion, a jet motion, Miami got all out of sorts. Anything on the perimeter outside the hash marks was a problem for Miami defensively. Can they stop it? Week one, in terms of talent at the running back position, that's top of the line. That's high watermark over there with Notre Dame. And I'm really concerned about that. And despite everything that we'll see in practice, Miami has a good offensive line and great running backs. Can they replicate what the looks that they'll get from Notre Dame? Can they replicate that game action week one? That's a tough opponent.
I'll push back a little bit in this way. I think what concerns me with Jeremiah Love is really explosive plays. Miami last year was horrible in explosive plays. That's what killed Miami. You think of the first game, Montrell Johnson has that long touchdown run in a game that was otherwise dominated by Miami against the Gators. You think of the running back, Jaden Ott, who Miami stuffed him pretty good, but then he got on that.
He was also hurt.
He was hurt, but they got him on that. He got us on that
Stepped out of bounds.
fourth down.
And thank you for correcting me so kindly. I had him as a former Stanford running back.
Yeah. So no, but about no Jeremiah Love. Yeah, Bryce Love. You're right. Yeah. Exactly. No, Jeremiah Love with one of the most explosive backs in the country. But when you look at the rush defense, this actually surprised me. So Minnesota, where Heatherman came from, ranked 20th in the country yards per rush against. And I like to look at yards per rush against as opposed to like cumulative yards, because sometimes teams are ahead and they're just, or teams are behind and the other team's running. Like it depends. Yeah. But yards per rush, more an efficient measure. So Minnesota's 20th in that. Okay. Miami actually last year, believe it or not, was 36th in the country. Not bad. Right behind Georgia. Georgia was 35th. Notre Dame was 31st. So our run defense was actually not that bad on a per rush basis. Now, there were some times like end of games where teams were able to run a little bit more. Obviously, Georgia Tech with that weird offense, they were making us look stupid. But really what killed Miami last year, of course, pass defense. We know that. The pass rush taking a step back with all those stunts for a team that you thought was going to rush the passer, and then the explosive play in all facets. And I think with Notre Dame, that's my primary concern. They're going to run the ball because they're a great running team. If you look at yards per rush average, like 4, like the offensive side of it, Miami and Notre Dame both top 5. But I think if Jeremiah Love, what he makes him tough is he won't just get a good 30-yard run. He'll get a good 70, 60, 50-yard touchdown on you. And of course, those plays in these marquee games, you think about Florida when Kadarius Toney killed us on that long run opening game, just kind of blew it open. LSU, they beat us pretty badly, but they also had a long run as well. Those take the wind out of your sails in these opening games. That's what you fear, at least for me, with the Jeremiah Love.
Pete, with what you saw at spring, early install with this defense, we know that Miami gave up big chunk plays at an FCS type clip. It was not good for Miami, and a lot of those players are still on this roster. So personnel is going to have to develop. The coaching is going to have to improve. Do you think Miami has done enough to mitigate this challenge? From what little you've seen in a couple of weeks, we may know more.
Schematically, it's tough to say. I haven't seen too much there. I would say, have they done enough to mitigate it? They went out and did a lot in the portal and in the back end, obviously. I still think we've talked about this a lot. The defensive line and the pressure that they bring, at least in the passing game, needs to be better than what it's been. And you didn't do a whole lot in the portal there. So you need these guys to show what you hope they're capable of. What we've seen out of Ruben Bain, which I know we're going to get to him more specifically later in the show here, but he's got to live up to the standard he kind of set in his freshman season. Then you need the young guys to step up, because we talk so much about the secondary, but that pass rush needs to be better.
And schematically, do you think one thing that I found frustrating, you're supposed to have an advantage on the defensive line, and we can all raise our hands and say we got defensive line expectations wrong, or the players fell well short of that. The defensive line was not as advertised last year. But one thing that got me really frustrated is we're out here running stunts when every team in the nation has film on us, and they're just going to run outside, and all we're doing is taking ourselves out of position. Heatherman's scheme, are we going to be seeing as many stunts?
No. And Evan makes a a point here too. He says it was mitigated the second they switched DCs. Mesidor and Bain will be in the backfield instead of in coverage. I think
you'll see Mesidor in coverage a little bit.
I think there's reasons for a lot of that stuff happening within the scheme, but I definitely don't think you're gonna see as much of it.
What about my chief concern, D Money? Personnel on the outside. Once you get outside the hash marks, Miami was a big problem. They would have defenders on an island, sometimes being totally out of position, and when the defender was there, the offensive player was able to shake them, make a play, get a chunk play. What has Miami done on the outside? Are there sure tacklers? Xavier Lucas. We know that they address the defensive back position, but are these guys good in space? Can they stop these big plays from happening? Can they make some TFLs even?
So if you go outside, right, let's just leave Frederic there because he was there last year. Well, you expect him to, he was a good tackler last year, actually. Surprisingly, he's gotten bigger. So let's assume he goes in the right direction. Your nickel last year was Daryl Porter. Solid player, but really was playing out of position in the nickel. He should have been an outside receiver. That's what he was in 23 when he had a good season for us. So you replace him with Keontae Scott, who was one of the best nickels in the SEC under Coach Etheridge at Auburn. Etheridge is here now. Scott's back to playing nickel. He was playing outside last year. He's 190 pounds, NFL prospect before he moved outside. So just from a size standpoint, I think, and just overall talent at that position, I think you're in your improved spot there. Lucas is 200 pounds. So just size-wise, he's going to be a bigger guy on the edge than what you had last year. And then safety, Zechariah Poyser, I think, is going to be a level above both the safeties we had last year. Jacoby Thomas, I've heard good things. I was asking about him, talking to sources around the program. They said they're very happy with what he's doing. They say he's more athletic than people think. He's a very good athlete. But really, his calling card is physical, knock people out type of player. So that also adds to it. So I think those spots should be better. Linebacker, we'll see. If we can get outside. Bassane, I think, is poised for a pretty good year. Mo Torrey, they're saying, is going to be the guy we haven't had on this defense. Bobby Prude, who's a speedy linebacker, a safety / linebacker, was singled out to me when I talked to sources about the team. So all those guys, I think, you're talking about space tackling. I think all of those guys could help in that way. We had some comments I wanted to get to. Kyle made a good point. Talking about explosive plays. Isaac Brown from Louisville, who we play again.
Yes.
He's going to, from Miami, Florida, one of the highest rated running backs in the country. He hit us for one early. Then we shut down Brown for the rest of the game. We also, and we're going to go to the scheduling in a second.
It was also a strange game.
Oh yeah.
It was a very weird game flow in that game, but you're absolutely right. Miami did well in limiting him. We were worried about him.
And that just in general, we play some explosive backs. We play him this year. We played Desmond Reed, another South Florida guy from Miramar High School, smaller guy, but had a ton of big runs last year for Pittsburgh. One of the more dynamic, kind of just big play running backs in the country. So we got those guys on the schedule on top of a Jeremiah Love. I had a comment here I wanted to get to from New King God. He said, are we going to actually talk Miami football? Or are we going to get sidetracked again and talk about Love Island? No and Mike.
I don't watch Love Island, but we are going to get sidetracked later on. But I hope
you're
happy.
We're rolling right now.
We're still in July, and we are hitting football really hard now.
Yeah, we're rolling.
Talk ball. We're
going to talk ball. I want to swing the pendulum back over briefly before you get to more comments about Notre Dame. You mentioned they do start slow under Marcus Freeman. That serves Miami well later in the season when they get into a little bit more of a flat track. But is it going to be too late? I don't know if you guys have seen Notre Dame's schedule to open the season, but they play Miami, Texas A&M, Arkansas. All these games are happening before Halloween. You may goose yourself up on a big performance against Notre Dame, and they may have 3 losses come October. Now, they still may be a very good team. I think they really, there's no doubt they maximize their talent to be able to survive that NIU loss and be there in the end, a runner-up that was just broken by the end, be able to survive all those injuries. I think, look, I don't want to give Notre Dame credit just as much as the next Miami Hurricanes fan, but they were really impressive with their toughness and their resilience last year. They had every excuse to punt on games. They didn't. That being said, you look at the overall talent on the roster, the question marks around the quarterback, the fact that they lost some contributors in the secondary, and that's kind of Marcus Freeman's thing. Again, you want them week 1. I expect them to take a step back. I don't think that this is a national runner-up team again. Miami does have this team where they want them because Miami's arrow, they don't have Cam Morton anymore, but I think overall we think Miami's arrow is pointing up, right? from an overall talent perspective.
Yeah.
And if we're viewing things through that lens, Miami's arrow is up from an overall talent perspective. Notre Dame's maybe down.
I'll say this. No, I don't agree. I think Notre Dame's talent is there. I think where Notre Dame is going to have a disadvantage is it's game one. It's Labor Day weekend. It's on the road. We saw the last time I played Notre Dame at night in the Rock. It was, according to Kirk Herbstreit, the loudest environment of that entire season.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I've said it a couple times before. There were a lot of people that work on College Game Day. I was working with ESPN at the time, and these guys are not hyperbolic. They see all the best atmospheres in the nation. They told me, and I don't know what's changed since 2017, but these are guys that have been around the block covering college football and all the big atmospheres for 20 years. They told me 2017, Hard Rock Stadium, Miami, Notre Dame, it's the second loudest stadium experience they've ever experienced in their college football lives behind LSU's Death Valley.
There you go. So you're talking about elite home field at night. Then you go to Notre Dame side. I think talent, I don't agree that talent's down. Where I think they're going to have a little bit of an issue here, CJ Carr, who by all accounts is very talented, the grandson of Lloyd Carr, 4-star player from the state of Michigan.
Oh, yeah, I didn't know that about Lloyd.
Lloyd Carr. It's amazing Michigan didn't get him. But when you pull up his stat page, and I'll show you right now, he's got a nice little fade in the picture. Let's see here. Let's go to CJ
Taylor
Carr.
Vippolis.
Yeah, he looks like him. There you go. Yeah, as you can see, the stat page is blank. Never thrown a college pass. So
crazy.
A quarterback in their first game in a very charged atmosphere.
Yikes.
Miami's going to be flying around on defense. It's their first game. They're going to be rocking and rolling just from a physicality standpoint, ready to hit somebody. So that combination is tough. Now, it's Notre Dame. They have a good offensive line. They can ease him into the game. They got veteran receivers, which will help him as well. But, they have to ease him into the game. Whereas with Carson Beck, you expect Miami to just go in there rocking and rolling and running their aggressive offense because Carson Beck has played in games. First, he's at home, so the crowd's not against them. But in terms of the general hype and environment, I mean, Beck has played in bigger games. So
Carson Beck
make a difference.
On the opposite side of the coin, Carson Beck has started 27 college football games, a lot of them in the SEC. By the way, his record 24-3 as a college football starter. He can't be losing this game to a true freshman. He can't be. He can't be losing this game to a freshman that hasn't made any college football starts. And we've seen all the aggregate reports that continue to be off the mark when it comes to his compensation and bonus structure.
Yeah, what's the story there?
I mean, it changes all the time.
Yeah.
I've seen 4.6. Now, all of a sudden, we've walked that back, and I've seen 4, all from the same publication. No accountability whatsoever about their previous numbers over there. Now, all of a sudden, I'm supposed to trust the same publication with what his bonus structure is. I don't know the number. You don't know the number. I just happen to know that the numbers that keep being put out there are wrong. I know nothing about his bonus structure. That being said, if what is reported is he's got a ceiling of $2 additional million in bonus payments, I imagine that is top of the line performance bonus stuff like college football playoffs, semifinals, national championship even. I think if you start reaching those escalators, Carson Beck has paid for himself in that regard, and paying him an additional $2 million is the least of anyone's concern. Miami has this, I know it's quantifiable with engagement, but you invoke Miami and NIL. And a lot of this is our own doing early on with John Ruiz making a show of it. We didn't help ourselves. And there's a lot to be said about John Ruiz. Let me say something positive. In the early going, he did help.
Oh, huge.
He was absolutely huge. He allowed Miami to hit the ground running and seize on market inefficiencies, and that the rest of the nation didn't really necessarily know what they were doing. And Miami was just dying for a legal path back into the game. And John Ruiz was ready. We caught John Ruiz at the right time. He caught the limelight at the right time. But we have paid for the sins of our father quite a bit here. Moreover, John Ruiz has been less of a factor much longer than he ever was a factor in terms of being a serious player in Miami's NIL. But that does not change the national perception. So things like Carson Beck, we know we've talked about his it factor. You couple that it factor with that beautiful you in branding, you're going to get an engagement paradise for bad faith aggregators.
And can I say something
engagement paradise for bad faith aggregators. Huh.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about insider language right there. Look at that.
It's just, it's interesting because obviously every time it's out, everyone's like, wow, that's a lot of money for him. Can we understand that that's what the market is for. It's like the NFL. Yes. Do you want to pay Tua all that money? Ideally, you don't. He hasn't been healthy, right? There's different factors for every deal that gets done, but you have to pay quarterbacks a lot of money if you want a top level quarterback. Whether or not he ends up being that, that's what we watch this beautiful sport for. Let's see what happens. But that's what the market is for a quarterback like that.
Canes Cat 305 points out he built the baseball team a weight room. I'm not here to take any credit away from John Ruiz when it comes to the baseball weight room and whatnot, but I am here to give credit to the rest of his family that also had a hand in that. And John Ruiz takes a lot of the shine there. There was a wife in the picture that was a big contributor to what Miami was doing, and a lot of family reasons for that. So it's a Ruiz family weight room. It ain't John Ruiz solely.
Michael Ryan Ruiz?
No, despite certain employees over at the University of Miami that insist that I'm related to John, I am not at all.
So Detective Holmes had a comment about Carson Beck. He said 24-3 with Curry Smart. Mario's coaching him this year, so we'll see. Here's what I'll say. When Mario had Justin Herbert, he went 12-2, won the Rose Bowl top 5, 12 wins in a season. We throw a parade for that. When he had Cam Ward last year, he was really 10-2. The 3 was not with Cam Ward, the Iowa State. Because the half that Cam Ward was in, we were winning and scoring at will. So really, I would say if you give Mario that level of quarterback, and I am not saying that Beck is that level, that's what he has to prove. But I'm saying the idea that, Mario's going to kill a good quarterback, I think that's been neutralized pretty good by the fact that Cam Ward went 1-1. Herbert had a tremendous success with Mario. And developed just fine for the pros. I mean, it's not like he had a learning curve in the pros.
He doesn't have the same kind of success in terms of wins and losses, though.
Right. Well, Herbert really started winning in the pros because here's the thing that I think people, and this is I have my things that I always kind of get upset about. People on the Canes is like, oh, Mario, he just wants to be tough and physical. He just wants to run the ball. The teams that win run the ball and play that style, especially in college. It's common sense. Alabama did it for a decade and won a ton of championships. Georgia did it without the best passing game in the world.
Michigan did it.
Michigan just did it. Ohio State had a lot of things, but certainly they had 2 backs that were top 2-round picks, and they had a good offensive line. Their quarterback was not a world beater in Will Howard. So that is really how you win. Notre Dame last year going to the game. Riley Leonard could barely pass, and they went to the championship game, running the ball, top 5, along with Miami. So running the ball is the way you win. And I think what we saw with Justin Herbert, and someone correct me in the chat if I'm wrong, but this is how I see it happening. Mario went 12-2 with Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert goes to the NFL, throws all over the place, puts up ungodly numbers, loses, but puts up ungodly numbers. Everybody said, man, Mario, he was wasting time running the ball with Justin Herbert, winning 12 games, winning the Rose Bowl, going top 5. He was winning the conference. They said, oh, he's wasting time with Justin Herbert because Justin Herbert, look at him in the pros. Even though he's losing, he's throwing the ball over the yard. He should have thrown it more. Fast forward, Herbert never makes the playoffs until his head coach, Jim Harbaugh. And what did Jim Harbaugh do the second that he got to Los Angeles Chargers? Drafted an offensive lineman, pared down the passing game, ran the ball. So the idea that and this was a very popular narrative at the time on the message boards, on the show, you heard it too, I'm sure, that Mario wasted a Justin Herbert. Mario didn't waste a Justin Herbert. He did the right thing to win games, which he did with Justin Herbert. With Cam, obviously didn't waste Cam. It was a first overall pick. We ran the ball like gangbusters, and we threw it. Best offense in the country by far. Where the problem was on the defensive end, but it had nothing to do with running the ball. It had to do with the fact that our defense just wasn't where it needed to be. So I think that idea, that narrative that Mario's going to just be a caveman and ruin these quarterbacks, I don't buy that. I think Mario's going to give Carson Beck every chance to succeed, both because Shannon Dawson is a good offensive coordinator, because the running game is going to be on point and allow much better than it was at Georgia, which was 104th in the nation, and allow Carson Beck to do what he does. And it's up to Carson Beck to do his thing.
And he won a Rose Bowl with Justin Herbert. And more importantly for Miami fans, is going to be triggering. He beat Wisconsin in an important bowl game, which is not something that Miami has proven to be able to do. And let's keep in mind the success that he had after Justin Herbert there at Oregon. Not guys that are in the pros right now. What was it, Davis? Who was it?
It's interesting. So they won the championship in 2020. He actually had Tyler Shuck. He recruited Tyler Shuck, which was a good evaluation. Maybe, I don't think they got along too good or at least the separation was not good.
Mm-hmm.
They won the conference. That was kind of the weird year where Pac-12 barely played any games because of COVID, and it was, I think, the team that was going to go to the championship had to drop out. It was some weird stuff. They won They won the game though, so that was big. Then 2021. What happened in 2021 with the
They had the BC kid, didn't they?
Right, because then 2022 was his first year, right? So they won 10 games with Anthony Brown.
Yeah.
So 10 games, which again is our high water mark of the last few years here. That was done with a quarterback that really was not a dynamic passer. So they won at Oregon. Now it's about getting over the hump, which is what we're talking about here, and what kind of the theme was of this video, which was really, this is an important season for Mario, beyond important.
Huge.
That's a kind of an understatement. This is almost a make or break. And I'm pulling up the schedule here, Mike.
Is make or break, because you projected make or break on me. Are you saying make or break? Because I'm willing to put, it's a centennial. It's year 4 of Mario Cristobal. They have Carson Beck, who's being paid somewhere between $2 and $17 million annually. All right. So they only have to go on the road.
Escalators. You got to take a look at those escalators.
They only have to go on the road 4 times this year. Yeah, they play Florida. Yeah, they play Notre Dame. They got those games at home. They got Notre Dame week 1, notorious slow starting program that